Thank you. Right, किधर है? So yeah, as I was telling, these are some of the disorders in which what do you call, you will be able to observe abnormalities in urine. So if one patient or some person has one of these abnormalities or one of these disorders or diseases, their urine will be abnormal, right? Now coming to collection of urine, this see, depending on how you collect, it might invalidate a few results, because you need a specific type of urine to diagnose one specific kind of condition. For example, there are a few conditions in which what do you call, the specimen or the particular substance that you are looking for will only be present in the first voided specimen. First voided specimen is early in the morning, the first what do you call, time someone urinates or voids, right? That is the first voided specimen. But the problem is, generally the urine that you get in urine analysis will be random. So people will generally give a random sample rather than the first sample. Most frequently you will get random rather than the first voided. But first voided is most important, because that will have most of the metabolic end products. So at least lab wise, that is the most important one. So you should try to get the first voided specimen whenever you can, right? In some conditions you might what do you call, want to take postprandial specimen as well. Now there is something called 24-hour specimen, where you take small samples over the whole day. All right, so ideally this patient generally this patient has already hospitalized, and you are collecting from their what do you call, urine collection bag a little bit every time, let's say once in a few hours, at once in 2 hours, so you that, so that you get basically 12 samples, and that is a 24-hour specimen. Right. Now coming to collection and guidelines, this is kind of important. Now whenever you collect what you call urine, you are supposed to collect it in a clean and leak proof bottle, right? It should be break resistant, and generally the material of that container should not interact with urine. So it should not be any chemical material that is interacting in any way with the urine. Okay, it should be completely neutral. So generally plastic is used, but sometimes glass can also be used. It can be a little bit more expensive, and it is harder to handle. If it falls, it will break and all of that will happen. So plastic is used generally, right? Now the container should not be reused. That is another thing. If you are using it for one patient, you should it should be use and throw, as the name suggests. Another thing, the capacity in general should be around 50 ml and 3 liters for a 24-hour sample. So 24-hour sample may you will collect a lot of urine. So in that case, you need a bigger urine bag. Now generally you use amber colored containers. This is not just for urine containers, you also use it for bottles of drugs. So if you have seen what do you call, drug bottles and all, especially in the hospital, they will be stored in amber colored containers. Amber is slightly orangish. Okay, you'll know if you see it. I'm not sure which drug, but amber colored bottles are basically, they will look brown from the outside, but if you look through them, you'll be able to see green orangish tinge. Okay, that is amber. That is so that what do you call, light sensitive substances will not get harmed. Amber will block certain damaging light, so it can be advantageous in that sense. So urine should be collected ideally in amber colored containers. Normally they are used in what do you call, transparent containers, but amber colored are preferred. So this is the kind of bottle that you generally use for collection of urine, right? Now, and another thing, it should be stored at around 4 to 6 degrees centigrade. For it can be stored up to 8 hours at this temperature. If you are storing it, ideally you would want to collect it and give it away to the lab, so that they can immediately start performing tests, or they will store in their own way. Okay, I will show you what are the effects of storage. And I don't think you have how to store. Yeah, you do have preservation of urine, right? Now coming to effects of storage, once you are storing urine, what will happen? Right? It will, if you keep on storing it for a long time, pH of that urine will increase, simply because ammonia from urea, the ammonia that is present in urea, that will keep on increasing in volume because of the bacteria which has urease, right? Your what do you call, if your urine has some bacteria, generally there will be a little bit of bacteria in your urine sometimes. Okay, in that case what will happen is, the urease present on the bacteria that fellow will convert urea into ammonia. If there is excessive amount of ammonia, pH will increase. Ammonia is a basic substance, so pH increases, right? Then formation of crystals might happen if there are increased amount of phosphates and calcium present in the urine. Crystals might be formed of phosphates and calcium. Ketone body loss might occur because, see, especially in case of what you call diabetes and some other conditions, you will have ketone bodies that are seen in your urine. So if you store the urine for a long period of time, these ketone bodies will be lost. They are volatile and they will dissolve. Okay, they will convert into different products. The purpose of that is, see, if you're trying to diagnose diabetes, or you're trying to diagnose a condition in which you know ketone bodies are present, and you ask the what do you call ask the nurse, or you ask for a urine analysis panel where they are supposed to collect the patient's urine, uh, perform the test and tell it to a doctor. Now if you collect the urine and store it for a long period of time, those ketone bodies are dying, or they are getting what do you call please stop drawing on the PDF. uh, they are getting what do you call dissolved. That defeats the purpose. So if ketone bodies are dissolved, even if the patient has the problem, the doctor will not be able to understand, because it has been stored for so long that ketone body is dissolved. That is what you're looking for, right? So you have to be careful in that. Decrease in glucose, generally because of glycolysis and utilization of glucose by the bacteria. If bacteria is present in your urine, glucose if present, again in diabetes as well, glucose, a little bit of glucose can be present. Also in pregnancy, a little bit of glucose will be present in your urine. So if there is bacteria in your urine, that can perform glycolysis and consume glucose. So that is there. Glycolysis is the process in which glucose will be broken down into two pyruvic acid molecules, right? A carbon molecule will be broken down into two 3 carbon molecules. Next, oxidation of bilirubin and biliverdin will occur. So this will give a false negative test. False negative test means it is not truly negative because you waited for so long. Oxidation of bilirubin and biliverdin occurred, meaning you are looking for bilirubin and biliverdin initially, and they were present in urine, but because you stored it for a very long period of time, or if you improperly stored it, you will not be able to get bilirubin and biliverdin even though the patient had bilirubin and biliverdin high in the urine. That is a false negative test. Okay, are you guys understanding what is going on? No one is even making a sound. So okay, okay, I guess you guys are understanding. See, you have to speak up. No one is going to I'm not going to again and again tell you, you have to speak up if you're not understanding. uh, I'll repeat once again. Oxidation of bilirubin and biliverdin, false negative test means it is not a true negative, in the sense that, obviously if it is false negative, it is not a true negative, in the sense that suppose you have a patient who has high amount of bilirubin and biliverdin, or you are suspecting the patient has high amounts of bilirubin and biliverdin, and you perform this test. Now if the sample was not collected properly, it was not handled properly, or something happened wherein oxidation of bilirubin and biliverdin occurred before you were able to test it, so you will not be able to find bilirubin and biliverdin even though the patient already had high amounts of bilirubin and biliverdin, because they got oxidated, right? Because they got oxidized, you will get a negative test. This is a false negative because it was not a negative. Because of some error, it became negative. So that is a false negative test basically. The same goes for urobilinogen and urobilin, right? If there is a renal disorder, obstructive renal disorder, or some renal disorder wherein what you call urobilinogen and urobilin are high, and you are not handling the what you call sample properly, or there is some error in the process from urine collection to what you call getting the result of the sample, then you will get a false negative, right? Even if the patient is actually having some problem. Another thing, bacterial proliferation might be seen. So if you wait for too long, bacteria might proliferate in the urine, at internal or external, right? External bacteria can also come in urine and what you call proliferate in that. Now generally you would want to use a sterile bottle for storage, but you never know, sometimes there might be bacteria in that and they might start proliferating, giving you a negative result. So let's suppose there is a patient whose urine sample you have collected, all right, and you are using some container, Okay, in that you're putting the urine and you're sending it for analysis. Now, if that vertical bottle is not completely sterile, let's suppose it has some bacteria, and urine is being poured inside, that will be nice festering ground for your bacteria to grow. Even if it is external bacteria that came from the bottle or with the bottle, it is not present in the patient, right? I am trying to test what is the problem in the patient. Now, if I let that sample stay for a long period of time, what will happen? That external bacteria will proliferate and they will increase in number. When I test, I'll be able to see increased amount of bacteria in that. And this might give a what you call false result, wherein it is showing some other bacteria that is high in the patient, even though that is not the case. Right? I have a patient A. That fellow is giving sample A. Okay, urine ka sample A. Now, in the container of sample A, there is some bacteria. Okay, let's suppose the bottle was not sterile. Okay, I am trying to find out whether there is any specific kind of bacterial infection in the patient. All right, let's suppose the patient has Mycobacterium tuberculosis infection. Okay, I'm suspecting, and I'm trying to find out whether it is present in the urine or not. All right, any particular, take any example, bacteria A and bacteria B. Okay, I am suspecting that there is bacteria A in person A. Now, what will happen is, if there is bacteria B in that container, whenever you're putting urine in that and storing it for a long time, bacteria B will proliferate and it will divide vigorously. So what will happen? Your urine will not just have bacteria A. If the patient has bacteria A, it will not just have bacteria A, it will have bacteria B as well if you test later on. So you'll be able to see high concentrations of both of them, right? So this might give a false result to the doctor that, okay, this fellow has two bacteria instead of one bacteria. Okay, I hope you are getting the logic. So it is important that you be quick with it. Right. Another thing is your cellular elements, especially your alkaline elements, can get destroyed if you wait for too long. Disintegration of cellular elements can occur. Okay. Now, how do you preserve urine? This is important. Right. Now, generally for routine analysis, preservation is not recommended because you're supposed to give it as soon as possible. But if you are preserving for a 24-hour urine sample for a long period of time, then you can use one of these. You can use HCl, you can use toluene, you can use boric acid, thymol, or formalin. Formalin is the most common one that is used. Sometimes HCl can also be used. Right? Clinically, most of the time HCl or formalin is used. The others not so much. Right? Thymol may be used if you are suspecting a fungal infection. Now, coming to physical examination of the urine, in physical examination, you are looking at four particular criteria in urine. You're looking at the volume of urine, how much volume of urine is coming out, the appearance of urine, what kind of appearance the urine has of any patient. This will help you assess any particular pathological condition. You will study about that in the next slides. Odor or specific gravity. Now, coming to volume, first of all, normally the amount of volume that a patient is supposed to urinate is around 600 to 2000 ml. Okay, depending on their water intake, depending on their age, depending on their kidney function, there are several things. But in general, in one day, the patient, any person, is normally what you call voiding 600 to 200 ml of what you call urine. Okay. Now, this is the normal one. Again, it is very important that you have to monitor the water intake of that patient as well. If the water intake of that patient is very low, then it will be what you call less. Also, in pregnancy, women, basically pregnant women, will void more. Especially diurnal variation will be reversed, meaning the amount of urine that is being formed in the night. Here it is mentioned 400 ml is being produced during night. Specific gravity, yeah, we'll go to specific gravity as well. एक के बाद एक जाएंगे. You want to know what is specific gravity? I'm not able to see your name, whoever this is. Or, yeah, okay. See, we'll eventually go to it. पहले volume कर लेंगे, उसके बाद appearance, odor, उसके बाद specific gravity को जाएंगे. ठीक है. Now, 400 ml is normally produced at night in urine. No, 400 ml of urine is produced at night. Pregnancy में more amount of urine is produced in the night rather than in the day. So generally 600 to 2000 ml में से almost 3/4 of it is produced during the day and you void it during the day. 400 ml is produced during the night that you void early in the morning. That is the first void, right? Pregnancy में that will be opposite. So most of the time women will wake up in the night, pregnant women, and they have to go to void their urine. ठीक है? Generally young children will have 3 to 4 times more amount of urine being formed, at least relatively more urine according to their body weight. If you take a 70 kilo man, okay, versus let's suppose a 10 kg child, right? The amount of urine that they are producing relative to their body weight will be 3 to 4 times more than what an adult produces. Okay, the ratio will be 3 to 4 times more. So if I have a 70 kilo man who is what do you call producing 1 liter of urine, let's suppose, per day. Okay, now that gives a ratio of 70 is to 1, or 1 liter is to 70 kilos. If you take ml per this thing, then it will be what 1 ml per 7 grams basically of that person's weight. If I take the person's what do you call amount of urine being produced versus the amount of versus the person's weight, 70 kilo man versus 1 liter water or 1000 ml, I will get 1 ml per 7 grams. In the same scenario, if I take a child, okay, let's suppose that child is weighing uh, 10 kgs, right? So that is around 1,000, yeah, around 10,000 grams. So in that condition, you will get a different ratio wherein the amount of what you call urine being produced by a child will be 3 to 4 times more relative to their body weight. Okay, it is not like they'll be urinating 10-20 liters, but relative to their body weight, they will be urinating much more than adults. Now, what does increase or decrease in urine volume indicate? If a patient is urinating more than 2000 ml in 24 hours, that generally indicates polyuria. Polyuria may indicate diabetes, but there are other conditions in which polyuria can also occur. Polyuria, the term itself refers to increased amount of urination. Literally, polyuria means many urine. Okay, so loosely translated, that will be more urination basically. Right? If it is more than 500 ml during night, now normally it should be 400 ml. If it is more than 500 ml in night, that is called nocturia. So you are producing and you are voiding more amount of urine during the night. Okay? In both of these, the cause can be one of these. It can, the most common cause is diabetes mellitus, obviously. Because of osmotic diuresis, you will understand what is the osmotic diuresis further down the line. But diabetic, you have DM a little bit in carbohydrates. So I'll explain during that time. डायबिटीज मेलिटस में हो सकता और इन डायबिटीज इंसिपिडस में हो सकता है. इन both of these conditions, diabetes insipidus is specifically because of ADH failure, but anti-diuretic hormone failure. Diabetes mellitus is slightly different because of increased amount of glucose or glucose intolerance. There is diuresis occurring, right? Or chronic renal failure where your kidneys are not working properly and renal tubules are not reabsorbing essential water inside. Now there is a certain amount of water that your renal tubules are supposed to absorb back inside, or else what will happen is hypovolemia. If excessive amount of water is being excreted out through your urine, you will have dehydration and hypovolemia, decreased amount of volume in your blood. So if your kidneys are not working, that can indicate that the patient has chronic renal failure where their kidneys are not working properly. Or they might be on diuretic therapy. Diuretics are drugs that are given to hypertensive patients. So patients who have hypertension or increased blood pressure, one method in which you can decrease their blood pressure is by giving diuretics where they urinate more. If they are urinating more, see, I told you, if blood volume is high, blood pressure will be high. Okay, if normally blood volume is supposed to be 4 to 5 liters. If it is going over 4 to 5 liters, generally blood pressure will increase. So one method of decreasing blood pressure is decreasing the volume of blood. Okay, not below normal, but decreasing a little bit. So in this condition, you can give a diuretic drug. But what will happen is, in diuretic therapy, you will be able to see polyuria, increased amount of urine. So it might be more than 2000, it might be slightly less than 2000 as well, but it will be more than the normal of that patient. Okay, let's suppose that patient normally urinates around 1.2 liters per day. When they are on diuretic therapy, when they are taking any diuretic drug, what will happen is they will what you call void around 1.7, 1.8 liters of what you call urine. So more amount of urine is being voided. Or another condition in which you see polyuria is polydipsia. Polydipsia is a condition in which you have increased thirst. Okay, if you remember in your intermediate, I think आप लोगों को इससे पहले कभी ना कभी डायबिटीज के 3 cardinal signs थे होंगे ना, polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia. They will urinate a lot, they will drink a lot, and they will eat a lot, right? So these 3 will be the classic signs, but polydipsia in general is a condition in which the patient has increased thirst. So if they have increased thirst, they will drink more amount of water, hence polyuria will occur. Also caffeine and alcohol intake, both of these will increase the amount of urine. If you are caffeine itself is a diuretic, right? Alcohol is not a diuretic, but it increased amount of alcohol intake can also lead to diuresis, right? You will urinate more. That is about increase in urine volume. See, again, if you guys are not understanding anything, or if you want me to slow down or repeat anything, you have to tell it to me. Okay, uh, I'm supposing that none of you have any doubt, and this is obviously it is easy, but again, if someone is not understanding, then please go ahead and ask. Okay, it is not necessary that you have to understand everything in the first thing. First go. Okay, no one has any doubts. Are you sure? Online hai first of
Yes,
all.
sir.
Okay, like 1 2. Right. Now, decrease in urine volume. When do you find decrease in urine volume? Specifically, how much will be categorized as decrease in urine volume? अबा कुछ नए नए फेसा दिख रहे हैं, क्या बात है? Okay. Um, Now, decrease in urine volume, specifically oliguria. Oligouria, oligo means decreased. Okay. Poly means increased. That is the basic terminology. If you have anything with poly, that means increased. Many. Oligo means decreased. So if you have oligomenorrhea, that is decreased amount of menses, or oligouria, that is decreased amount of urine production, right? Anuria will be almost none. Okay, that is decreased less than 100 ml in 24 hours, or complete cessation. So cessation means complete stoppage. So if the patient is not urinating altogether within 24 hours, or if they are urinating less than 500 ml, if it is less than 500 ml, that will be categorized in oligouria. If they are not urinating at all, that will be anuria. So they are not urinating at all, that is anuria. Now, what are the causes? Oligouria generally occurs in high grade febrile states. So if the patient has high grade fever, febrile state is fever state, right? If they have a high grade febrile state, or if they have acute glomerular nephritis, meaning their what do you call, there is what do you call, your collecting tubule, collecting duct, all of them are severely inflamed, right? Meaning GFR will significantly drop. Glomerular nephritis is there is severe inflammation in your glomerulus and in your collecting ducts. Basically, there is proper inflammatory damage occurring near your kidney, right? Or another way is congestive cardiac failure or dehydration. Congestive cardiac failure is a condition in which तुम लोगों को हार्ट हुआ शायद ना recently.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ventricles क्या करते हैं? Obviously, I'm asking a very basic question, but what do ventricles do? आइले ventricles क्या करते हैं? नहीं मालूम तुम लोगों को, परसों ही हार्ट हुआ ना? ऐसा भूल गया तो कैसा? What do ventricles do? अच्छा, what does your heart do?
Receives the blood.
It will receive the blood.
Pump the blood, pump.
हाँ. अच्छा, one question. What does ventricle do? I'm putting the pretext that it is already getting blood from atria. It is a chamber of. What do they do? I'm not asking what they are. I'm asking what do they do. लोगों का काम क्या है? वो क्या है नहीं पूछा मैं.
Receive the blood, sir.
They receive the blood. Okay. They receive the blood from atria. After that, what do they do? Receiving is not the important function of ventricle. After that, they do something.
Particles
Supplying
will come the body part, sir.
So the first time when lub occurs, or basically when atria contracts, blood will be pumped into your ventricles. From ventricles you will have what you call right and left ventricular what you call systole. तुम लोगों को systole diastole पढ़ा दिया, I'm hoping. If you have been taught about structure of heart and functioning of heart पढ़ा है या खाली structure of heart पढ़ा है?
Sir, structure padaya.
खाली structure पढ़ा है.
Not about function. Not about function.
अच्छा, तुम लोगों को नहीं मालूम हार्ट क्या करता. ओके, ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. एटलीस्ट एट दिस लेवल यू डोंट नो व्हाट हार्ट डज. ठीक है. So ventricles basically supply blood to your body and your lungs. So if you have your right ventricle, whenever that is going into systole or whenever that is contracting, basically what will happen is the blood in your right ventricle will go to your lung through your pulmonary artery, and you have your anatomy ho gaya, but you know what is the pulmonary artery and what is the aorta. So through the pulmonary artery your right ventricle will push blood into your lungs, and through your aorta your left ventricle will push blood into your body. Okay, that is the basic of it. Now congestive heart failure is a condition in which blood is being retained in your heart. It is not being completely pumped out, okay, which is causing congestion. Okay, imagine there is traffic being created in your blood in your heart, but that traffic is by blood. Okay, more and more amount of blood is being stored in your heart rather than being pushed out. Even though there is a little bit of blood that should be pushed out, that should remain in your heart, but in congestive cardiac failure progressively more and more amount of blood is filling up in your heart, so your heart will not be able to contract properly and all of that. Okay, that is congestive heart failure. Or in dehydration condition, in both of these cases you will have decreased amount of urine production. Now यहाँ पर congestive cardiac failure इसलिए लिए, if a blood is pooling in one particular place, if it is pooling, basically it is collecting in one particular place, it will ultimately lead to decreased amount of blood volume all around your body. So if I have, let's suppose 4 liters of blood in a person, and your heart itself is what you call acting as a pooling, it is what you call undergoing congestive cardiac failure, wherein more amount of blood is being stored in your heart, it is not being pumped out, so that is why it is being stored in this aspect. What will happen is, instead of 4 liters, let's suppose your blood volume falls to 3.7 liters. That will cause oligouria. Your urine production will decrease. Okay. See, what is happening is, agar blood volume come ho gaya, so whatever amount of urine that you are producing, your body will think, "Arey, why should I produce more urine and throw it out when there is already hypovolemia? If I have decreased amount of blood volume, it is more important for my body to maintain blood pressure rather than throw urine out. So I will store more urine." In that sense, oligouria will occur where you are urinating less, or in the condition of dehydration where you're not simply vertical, you're dehydrated, you haven't drunk enough amount of water, or you went out in a very vertical hot environment where you got dehydrated, right? In both of these conditions you will have decreased urine production. In anuria specifically, where there is no production of urine, this is when you have acute tubular necrosis, meaning your tubules will undergo proper irreversible damage. Necrosis is a kind of damage through which you cannot come back. Okay, it is permanent damage, and you will understand necrosis better next year anyway. But necrosis for now, think of it as a permanent damage, permanent inflammatory damage. यहाँ पर acute glomerulonephritis में it was only inflammation. In necrosis, this inflammatory damage will exacerbate, or it will increase to such an extent that your tubule is completely lost. That particular part of kidney will not work at all. Or in another condition where urinary obstruction is there, complete urinary obstruction, where urine cannot pass through at all. In both of these conditions, there will be anuria. Right? Coming to appearance of your urine, now you have to see both color and clarity. See, normally urine is slightly amber in colored. If you are really healthy and you drink a lot of water, it will be clear. If you yourself observe, generally, let's suppose for one day, for a couple of hours, you forget to drink water. In winters, it generally happens. People forget to drink water, right? Even if you don't drink water for, let's say, 6 hours. Okay, when you urinate after 6 hours or during that period of time, you will be able to see a darker shade of your urine. It will be amber colored, or it will be darker in color. If you drink a lot of water, the more you drink water, the more clearer your urine will be. Okay, that is the basic gist of it. Now, when you're checking for appearance of urine, you check for both color and clarity, how clear the urine is and what kind of color the urine has. Now, generally, if it is white, see, white is different and clear is different. Don't confuse in between them. You, a healthy person has clear urine, meaning you can, it is like water. You can see clearly through it. White is clearly, it is a color, right? This will represent either pus is present in that, or phosphates are present in that. It might be semen that is present in that, or it might be chyle. In all of these conditions, your urine might become white. When will it become yellow or orange? If there is increased amount of bilirubin or urobilin. In if there is increased amount of bilirubin or urobilin, or some drugs will cause this. Rifampicin, acreflavin, pyridium, all of these will cause what you call yellowish or orangish tinge to your urine. Sometimes senna as well. And there is a condition in which there will be people who think that if you eat, see, eating carrots is fine for your eyesight, okay, and in general for your health it is fine. But some people go nuts and eat way too many carrots if they are diagnosed with what you call hypermetropia or myopia. So basically, if they are getting a new spectacle to adjust their what you call vision, what they will do is they'll start eating a lot of carrots. It happens sometimes. They eat it to such an extent that their urine will become orange, their skin will become orange, and they'll literally start looking orange. Okay, it does happen. You get cases now and then like that. So if because carrot has that what do you call the dye in it, because of which you will get that yellowish orange tinge. Also, in vitamin B complex therapy, if someone has vitamin B complex deficiency and you are providing vitamin B complex to them, in that condition also the patient's urine will become yellowish orange. And the first one, concentrated urine, this is when you are not drinking enough amount of water, or because of whatever condition the concentration of urine is increasing, meaning the constituents present in urine, they are increasing relative to the volume of urine. For example, if you have clear urine, let's suppose you had 10 molecules or 20 molecules of whatever constituents were there per liter of urine, or per 100 ml of urine. Okay, so you had 10 molecules for 100 ml of urine. This was giving you clear color, no color at all. Okay, now if instead of 10 you have 100 or 200 for every 100 ml of urine, 100 or 200 molecules for 100 ml of urine, you will definitely see concentration increasing. This increase in concentration will generally be seen as yellowish or orangish color, right? Now some conditions में pink भी हो जाता और red भी हो जाता. These are generally your blood disorders. Either myoglobulin, a protein myoglobulin is present, or hemoglobin is present, or porphyrins are present. Porphyrin ring is a structure in your hemoglobin. So there is a problem in which your what you call hemoglobin is being destroyed. Okay? Uh, or there is an abnormality in hemoglobin, or there is an abnormality in blood. In those conditions, you will be able to see reddish or pinkish urine. Also, if someone is consuming a lot of beets are beetroots, okay, or if they are consuming methyl dopa is a drug that is given for Parkinson's disease. Dopamine substituent है वो basically, right? I'm not sure तुम लोगों को nervous system हुआ अब तक? Ever heard of dopamine? Okay.
Neurotransmitter, sir.
It's a neurotransmitter. Methyl dopa. See, there are a few conditions in which dopamine or neurotransmitter level in your body will fall. Methyl dopa is one such drug that is given to substitute dopamine. Okay, if someone has decreased amount of dopamine, you give methyl dopa so that they can make up that decrease. Now, आपके पास vitamin deficiency हो गई तो you will give what you call vitamin therapy, right? Substituent therapy. You will give, let's suppose B complex अगर कम हो गया तो you will give B complex drug. The same way, if dopamine is less, you will give methyl dopa, and that can cause pink or reddish urine, right? In some other conditions, what you call your uroporphyrin or porphobilinogen, all of them will also cause reddish or brown tinge of your urine. Sometimes also purple. This reddish or brown, what you call urine. Initially, it will be red. If you let it be for a little while, it will become brown. If you let it be for a little more while, it will become purple. So color will change. Same for the next one, brown to black. So initially the urine will be brown, then it will become black. So this is generally the case if urine has melanin in it, right? Melanin is the pigment that will give you color, right? Your skin color, right? If you have more amount of melanin, the more melanin you have, the darker you will be. Less melanin you have, the vertical clearer you will be, basically. Nothing to do with fairness creams. Now another thing, phenol and porphyrin. Also, if you are really dirty, then also you will be dark. So there is that. Um, Phenol and porphyrins. So these will also cause what you call brownish and blackish tinge to your urine. There are a few drugs that can cause brown and blackish tinge to your urine. If specifically iron compounds are present in your urine, or chloroquine, levodopa. Chloroquine is an anti-malarial drug. Okay, levodopa is another substituent for dopamine. Methyl dopa, levodopa, both are dopamine substituents. Or metronidazole. Metronidazole is an antibiotic. Or quinine. Quinine is generally given as an anti-malarial. Right? In all of these conditions, in all of these drugs, urine can turn from brown to black. Initially, you will get brown urine, which will turn black eventually. Right? Now you can also get blue to green urine. So initially when you collect the urine, it will be blue in color, which will eventually turn green in color. This can be specifically because of Pseudomonas infection, very common in case of Pseudomonas infection, or if the patient has increased amount of biliverdin, another pigment of bile, biliverdin. If it is in excess, then your urine will be blue in color. If the patient is given methylene blue is a dye that is used for diagnosis. For diagnosing a few conditions, you can give this dye. So if the patient is given a methylene blue, or if they are given B complex, excessive amount of B complex, or if they are giving amitriptyline is an antidepressant. So if they are on an antidepressant like amitriptyline, the urine can be blue in color. See, I'm telling these what do you call drugs because you will get a few patients who will panic whenever they get brown, blue, red urine, because obviously your urine is not supposed to be what you call rainbow colored. Now they can panic in such a condition. So it is your job to tell them. Now, if you see a patient who is on levodopa and they are getting brown urine, that is normal. Okay, you have to let them know. Okay, this, because you are taking this drug, the urine is coming out brown and this might turn black. Okay, that is normal. Do not panic. Okay, that is kind of important. Right. Clarity, will continue with clarity tomorrow. I almost have like 1 minute left. Okay, I hope you understood today's class. No one had any doubts, surprisingly. Fairly easy. It's not, physical examination is much more easier. Chemical examination में थोड़े reactions आते हैं. ठीक है. See you tomorrow then. Day after tomorrow.